Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. And when I was assigned this topic, I very much thought of my college days of philosophy. And this idea of discovering your niche is almost like the meaning of life. It's very broad, it's philosophical and somewhat deep, but I'm going to try to break it down. It was very introspective, and I appreciate the exercise, Patricia, in sort of figuring out what this means. So I have no relevant disclosures. Mark Twain said the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. I wish we had these aha moments like, man, I know I'm here, I finally arrived, I've got it. Again, when I was invited to give this talk, I sort of thought, does she think I have my niche, or does she realize I need to find my niche? And I'm still not sure. And as I really contemplated, I'm satisfied where I am right now. However, I think the world continues to evolve, and as we move through this next 15 or 20 minutes, I think you'll see that your niche will continue to change and evolve. So what is your niche? It's a comfortable or suitable position in life or employment. So I think thinking about it in that term, you're looking for satisfaction, for personal satisfaction. But I think this definition actually is more appropriate, the ecological niche, because what it takes into account are competitive forces and resource changes that occur within your environment. And the bottom line is that we live in a very dynamic world. Hospitals are going to change. Your chairman is going to change. You're going to have new partners. You're going to have stressors that impact your life on a daily basis. You heard about your contract, and maybe they told you you're going to be on call every third night, but that third partner just left, and tag you're it. Now you're on call every other night. So how you respond to the changing environment is absolutely critical and important. So we're really going to focus on this lecture really on your professional niche. But I think it's important to keep in mind that your niche really encompasses many factors of your life, your personal life, your family, your children, your faith, your hobbies, what you like to do outside of the hospital, and how you fit into those organizations and those pieces of your life are equally important. But even within your professional life, I know where I fit into this organization, SAGES, but my employer at home could care less what I'm doing while I'm here. They have expectations of me. They want RVU productivity. They want cash. They want research dollars. They want manuscripts out of me. And I can do that too. So keep in mind that your niche is not just locally at your hospital, but it's on a national basis, a societal basis, and you can develop a niche in each of those. So when we think about our local niche, and largely that means practice, what does that mean? It's becoming the go-to person. You want to be the standout in the crowd. You want people to say, I love this quote, you're ridiculously resourceful. You are the person that they want for a particular individual situation. And a lot of that has to do with ability. I'm sure you have all heard of the 3 A's, ability, availability, and affability. And unquestionably, availability is the most important. They want someone that they can call that is going to be responsive. But beyond that, you've got to get the job done, and you got to do it with a smile on your face. So I think it's important that you keep those factors in mind. Well, how do we discover our niche? I think that in and of itself, understanding what discovery means, I think was very interesting. So many of us will search, have a deliberate search for our niche, where I would argue that the vast majority of us are going to stumble upon our niche by accident, very, very much in a random or haphazard manner. So I put up a poll on the IHC. This is the International Hernia Collaboration. This is a Facebook closed group for those who are interested in hernia repair. And I asked this group of hernia specialists why or how they became hernia experts. And the bottom line is nearly 50% said it just happened. This was not something they sought out to do. And you can see, a very small number of people said they sought out to be a hernia expert, but most of these individuals happened upon a career in hernia. And, I would say largely that is my professional niche today, but I have other parts of my practice as well. So how do you discover your niche? There's lots of pieces. If you're thinking about it a priori, there's things you want to sort of set out. And, when you're thinking about your contract, finding that job, landing that perfect position, lifestyle is important. What are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? How much are you going to work? How much are you not going to work? Do you want to be in an academic environment? Do you want to have a government employment, military employment, institutional employee? If you're going to be in the world of private practice, do you want to be a solo practitioner and have all of those responsibilities? Or are you more interested in being in a multi-specialty group? And there are advantages and disadvantages of all of those. And we can sort of conceptualize what might be advantageous for any individual, but you really need to do some soul searching to try to figure that out and talk to individuals that are in each of those type of arrangements to figure out what makes the most sense for yourself. What about location? Where do you see yourself being? Most of us have trained in major academic medical centers that are in urban centers around the country. Life is very different if you pick up and move to a rural community. So keep that perspective in mind. And even if you started in rural America, trained in an urban center, and you go back to rural America, things are going to be different because your outlook on life and your ability to provide medicine is going to be different in those types of facilities. Something as simple as commute time is really important. If you live in Atlanta and you have to take the Beltway, guess what? You're going to spend a lot of time driving, and I hope you got a great radio in your car. Whereas living in a smaller community may make a difference where you can get home, maybe home for lunch, get home to see your kids play soccer and go back to do the next case. So those are very important. You heard a little bit about compensation. Needs versus wants are very important. We all want to get paid a lot of money, but what do you really need to pay the bills? Student loans are a very important component of that. If you're fortunate and aren't finishing with significant student loans, you may be in a very different position from someone who does not need them. Talent is very important. I know you all think you're well-trained in absolutely everything because that's what we convince you at the end of a general surgery residency, but what are you really best at? I think that's important to keep in mind that, you are going to be expertise. And then what do you like? Some people like certain things. Some people detest other things. I did not become an ear, nose, and throat surgeon because I cannot stand snot, period. Poop doesn't bother me at all, but snot just doesn't sit well with me. But within general surgery, there's things that I like better than other things. And, there's things that I really enjoy and things that I don't enjoy, so keep that in mind. And then also, what do you like reading about? What are the things that are going to interest you? What's going to keep you up at night? What's going to make you think, make you contemplative, make you want to progress within your field? And I think all of those are very important. But at the end of the day, it's really what's in your heart. And to me, that's what we're going to talk about over the next few minutes. Big fish, little pond, little fish in a big pond. I think those are very important to think about. Now, as you finish your training and you're entering into the world of practice, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. So, are you going to go to a smaller place? Maybe you're the first of whatever specialty, whatever that might be. You have a lot of responsibility falling on your shoulders at a relatively junior age. That doesn't mean you can't do that, and there's probably many of you in the crowd that would excel in that type of environment, but appreciate that there's going to be a lot of people looking at you, and there's not going to be a lot of opportunity for mentorship if you end up in a small place with not a lot of resources. However, if you join a major academic medical center and you're one of many faculty, there's less of an opportunity to have that leadership role and really stand out. Now, there's also more opportunity to hide. There's opportunity for significant mentorship as well, but there's a big difference between being that big fish in a little pond and a little fish in a big pond. So how do we find our niche? It's sort of like finding my car keys. I lost them. Where am I going to look? And I would argue that some people are going to look harder. Leave no stone unturned, lift up every cushion. If you're my 14-year-old, you're not even going to look at all. You're just going to call the locksmith and get a new key, maybe grab the spare key. But when you truly find your niche, and as I said, many times it's unexpected, I think that's when you can really demonstrate happiness. And I think many times it's truly by accident. So what are the important elements of finding your niche? I think it starts with both passion and purpose. And the analogy, I didn't come up with this. Many philosophers have talked about building a campfire. And the idea is that the purpose is the wood. That's the sort of the foundation. That's the why. That's the deep reason. And your passion are your feelings, your emotion. And, if the flame goes out, you're going to light another match. And if it goes out again, you're going to light another match. And that's really the drive. That's the emotion behind it all. But at the end of the day, you're building a campfire. And I think you need both that passion and the purpose to truly experience and find your niche. But realize, especially early in your career, you're not going to be able to just focus on that one element of your career. You're going to have to do a lot of things that you might not find enjoyable, or you might not find that purpose in life, whether it's doing soft tissue tumors and lipomas and sebaceous cysts, or even taking out gallbladders. That may not be what you ultimately want to do, but sometimes you've got to do things that are less desirable for you as a means to an end. And there's been a lot written about the millennial generation, and many of you are probably millennials, and I'm not picking on you at all, but millennials want things differently in life than what maybe I wanted when I came out of my practice. Focuses have changed, and there's been a lot of prioritization changes, and maybe you guys are doing it better. I certainly have work-life imbalance. There's no question I work way harder than I care to, and many times it's my family that sacrifices. So it's that dilemma of for love or for money. Should you do what you love? Should you do what pays? If you're doing something that you hate, maybe you can find that satisfaction in another part of your life. You go to work, you don't really enjoy it that much, but you really pour your heart and soul and your passion into something that you're doing on a more personal basis. We have something in Lexington called Surgery on Sunday, where we provide free care on Sundays to patients who fall through the cracks and don't have, can't get Affordable Care Act coverage, don't have the money, the monetary ways. And it's a phenomenal organization in a way that we can really give back to the community, providing surgery. So, there's ways to provide meaning to your life beyond what you're actually doing in the work days. So the love or money debate, I think, is an interesting one to think about. I'm sure you've all been asked, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? There's no doubt life's going to throw curveballs at you. You're going to have to duck. You're going to have to make unexpected left turns. But having that vision where you would like to be, do you just want to be the go-to person for taking care of patients? Do you want to be a chairman? Do you want to run facilities? Do you want to work for an insurance company? Just having that direction is helpful to help you see beyond, the next day or the next week or moving forward in your career. And you need to start moving towards that ultimate goal. But it's not just passion, it's not just purpose, it's practice. You got to be good. You got to be great, honestly. There's little tolerance today in the era of transparent medicine to be anything other than excellent. And Erickson, I think, says it very nicely, the role of deliberate practice. You've all completed your residencies, you've completed your fellowships, but the training has not ended at that point in time. And really, you need to continue to analyze what you do wrong, make adjustments, and improve the care and the quality of care that you're providing. I love this book, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, talking about 10,000 hours. Gladwell uses the analogy of the Beatles and having opportunities to perform, and that frequent performance really set them up for success. Talked about Bill Gates using computers from a very young age and setting him up for success. But the time alone does not guarantee success, but it certainly helps. If you can practice your craft and master it, you will ultimately do better. In laparoscopic surgery, for most of us, this is not something that happens by accident. When I was a fellow, I used our lap trainer. I took it home at night. I practiced suturing. It was a labor of love. It was painful. It was arduous, but it was absolutely essential. When I have my chief residents come on and rotate with me, many times I'll ask them how they're doing with their suturing, and they'll say, I haven't done that in a while. I was on transplant. I was doing trauma. For MIS, and most of you are MIS surgeons, it really is something that requires persistent effort and training. And some of us get in the operating room on a regular basis. Some of us actually have to practice outside if you're not doing a lot of suturing or complex cases early on, particularly as you're starting your practice. You're doing a lot of gallbladders. You may have done a ton of bypasses and suturing and colectomies as a fellow. Your first couple of years, you may not be doing that. And it's easy to get rusty. And I want to stress the importance of practicing, because the first time you have to do it, you don't want to have to struggle, because laparoscopic surgery is a very public display of your operative skills. The nurses talk. You took the words out of my mouth. And they're going to say, Dr. So-and-so is slow. You could not believe how long it took him to throw that first stitch. So you want to make sure that you practice and that you're capable and you're able to do the things that you want to do. So your goal is to sort of find that sweet spot, things you enjoy, things that you're good at. And obviously, there's more to it, otherwise I'd hang up right now. There's got to be a need. You've got to find something that the community needs in order to truly find that niche. Sam Walton, this quote, Sam Walton, obviously the founder of Walmart, was very successful in doing things differently, turned the industry absolutely upside down. I actually Googled Walmart in Seattle. There's no Walmart in Seattle. you've got to move outside the community. So the whole idea, and I'm sure there's suburbs with different names that, someone's going to Google it and find one in some town near here. But Walmart set a different model. So instead of making the people come to the city, he brought retail to the small community, and he set up distribution centers around the country, all within a day's drive to the retail outlets that he established in small towns all around the country. So he completely disrupted industry by doing things a little bit differently, and obviously is one of the most successful businessmen in certainly the modern era. And you got to be profitable. I mean, unless you're doing this for the love, or you're doing missionary work, at the end of the day, all of this has to pay the bills. I loved lap-adrenalectomy. When I was a chief resident, I did my grand rounds on it, I studied it, I learned it. When I was a fellow, I thought, this is it, and this is what I want to do. I want to be a lap-adrenalectomy surgeon. This is going to be phenomenal. My first 5 years of practice, I think I did 3 lap-adrenalectomies. It's just, it's not practical. You have to have an ounce of pragmatism, and you can try to develop it and grow that and have that be a part of your practice, but you have to be able to make a run of it and make some form of financial gain associated with it. So how do you do that? You don't have to be brand new. I like the term better new. That's what Tesla has done. They make cars, they still drive, they'll take you from A to B, but they're better. They're faster, they're quicker, they're cleaner, they're quieter, they're better new, smarter, more efficient. And we can all do that. When you join your first practice, you're going to see what the old stodgy surgeon in the back of the, in the hospital does. And he's going to tell you how great it is, and what you're doing is a bunch of smoke and mirrors, and I've been doing it this way for 30 years, and there's no reason to change. But you can do it better. And you need to do it better, and you need to bring folks along. And I think it's important to realize that, and you demonstrate that through your outcomes, and you publish upon them, and you report upon them, and and you're able to make changes by doing that. You need to super specialize. I think subspecializing is great, but super specialize. Find your little clinical area where you really can make a difference, and convince patients, convince referring doctors that you are capable and best at doing, and you will see that will continue to grow and build, and the referrals will continue to come. The acute care surgeons were masterful at this. They recognized a huge void in surgery. Elective general surgeons couldn't stand taking calls from the emergency room. It was disruptive. Taking that appy call in the middle of a list made my day run long. So they said, great, we'll take it over. Now, around the country, many surgeons are wishing they could have that back. They need the RVUs. The trauma departments, the acute care surgeons, as they're now called, have taken over all of that business. And the general surgeons are starved for RVUs in some places. They're trying to negotiate, how do we get a piece of that action again? So you got to be careful. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to what the needs are, you listen to the community, and you fill that void. So again, getting back to that concept of what are the needs. So I'm going to tell you, more times than not, as I shared a moment ago, the niche will find you. So when I finished my residency, my fellowship, I went to East Carolina University. Walter Porres, he was the emeritus chair at the time, but was still clinically active, sat me down and said, Scott, what do you want to do? And again, adrenals. He shook his head, no. Pancreas, no. And I thought about it a little bit more. I just did this lap fellowship. I learned laparoscopic ventral hernia repair from Adrian Park. This is great. I want to do lap ventral hernia repairs. Bingo. He said, that's what you can do. You can be the hernia surgeon. And I thought this is what I was going to get to do. Well, unfortunately, Walter had clinic on the same day with me on Mondays. And Walter has been a surgeon at East Carolina at that point. I mean, he's still practicing, bless his heart. I think he's 85 years old. But he had been practicing for 30 years, and he had a robust bariatric surgical practice in the era of open gastric bypass. So he knew how to create some hernias. And this was in the day of paper medical records. This is the early 2000s. And he would walk over to my office and say, Scott, I got a patient for you to see. And he would walk up to me with a chart this tall, and it would say volume 12 on it. Some of you know what I'm talking about. And say, you need to take care of this. So, I very much intended to be a lap ventral hernia surgeon, and this concept of an open ventral hernia, and much of what my research and practice has evolved into is complex abdominal wall reconstruction, really. And today I really thank Walter Porres for that, for handing me those charts and those types of patients. But again, as I said, life evolves. Life throws you curveballs. We have a pretty active heart failure program at the University of Kentucky. And one of the challenges associated with it is that many of these patients have become morbidly obese. And as you can see here, there's a little bit of a paradox with obesity and heart failure, that obesity actually causes heart failure, but once you get the heart failure, you live longer if you're obese. So now we've got a bunch of obese heart failure patients that can't have heart transplants because we know that the heart transplant outcomes are poor if you're greater than 140% over your ideal body weight or your BMI is over 30. So they won't transplant these folks. So they said, Scott, we need you to become a bariatric surgeon for the heart failure patients. So if anyone wants that, come to University of Kentucky. I have an instant niche for you. But again, an example of sometimes the niche finds you. It wasn't something I was looking to do, but certainly found my way. I think it's very important to lean on your mentors. I mentioned Adrian a few minutes ago. Adrian has been very instrumental in my career. He was my fellowship director, very much helped me with employment searches, not just my first job, but my second job, my third job. You need to lean on your mentors, not just now, but this is a lifelong commitment. You are your mentor's professional children. And you need to realize that, and we can't get rid of you, just like I can't get rid of my own kids, nor do I want to. They really do embrace you. They want to foster you. They want to help you. They want to help you with clinical care if you have questions. They want to help you with research if you're interested in becoming engaged. They want to help you get involved in societies. I think all that's important. And they're also your friends. And that relationship will change instantly the second you graduate. And, it'll no longer be Dr. Park and it'll be Adrian, for me. And it took me a little while to get over that hurdle, but they really do become your friend, and you really do need to embrace that. And I think that's very important. There's just a couple more points that I want to make. I think one of my greatest challenges is learning to say no. You will be bombarded with asks. Will you do this? Can you do this? Will you be on this committee? Can you do something else? Can you write this paper? Can you do this review for me? And many times you will feel powerless to say no. And I think it's important to remember that every time you say no, every time you say yes, you're saying no to something else, whether you realize it or not. And many times it's your family that sacrifices the most. When you say yes, that you'll do that one extra project, that's just one more hour out of your day that you're spending in the office and not going home. My resolution for 2017 was the best yes. To me, this was a phenomenal read. And, I don't know if any of you have read this or not. I would highly encourage it. It's an easy read. It's almost a throwaway. But it really is about learning to say no, because when you say no to wrong things, that's pretty easy. Saying no to things that make sense is a little bit harder. But when you say no, it leaves room for that best yes, for that opportunity, so you can really pour your heart and soul into the things that matter the most to you. So learning to have that best yes, I think, is absolutely, absolutely critical. And lastly, be open to change. The world of surgery is changing in front of us. There is very little that I do today that I did the day I graduated from my fellowship. I would argue almost nothing I do the same. And it will continue to change. And this conference is full of examples of how technology, virtual reality, robotics are making significant impact on the world of surgery as we know it. And I would argue 20 years from now, the way we practice medicine will be that much different, and probably exponentially different. So be open-minded and accept the fact that the world will continue to change, and you will need to practice differently, and your niche will evolve. The future is undoubtedly exciting. So to wrap up, I think it's important to remember that you've got to have passion and purpose. Focus on what you do best, but it does require continuous effort. You need to be outstanding in everything that you do. Get involved, avoid overcommitment, remember that best yes, and most importantly, be adaptable. And I would argue that if true happiness comes from the intersection of doing what we love, what we're good at, and what the world needs. And if you can accomplish that, then I think you truly will have found your niche. So thank you very much.